Welcome to the Longevity Lounge, a podcast, a club and an event series that seeks to uncover some of the secrets to living well and feeling younger longer. Every episode we interview a longevity legend or a health expert, from neuroscientists through to exercise physiologists, as we make sense of the emerging science behind longevity. I'm Karl Treacher and I'm joined by my co-host and co-founder of the Longevity Lounge, former world Ironman champion, Guy Leech. So Leechy, let me start with this. So this week I had a great week. My mum called me Roz. Okay, my mum's name's Roz. She called me very excitedly that one of her friends from pickleball, June, my mum's 79. One of her friends from pickleball had listened to a podcast about longevity from a professor, and some guy that she said, now let me get this right. I've got this on a piece of paper.
Here we go.
The first guy to ever win the Beach Olympics in the 80s, a guy called Trevor Leech.
That's not even true.
No, it's not true. Now, Today we're going to talk a little bit about the show that launched on Channel 9 recently.
Do You Want to Live Forever?
That's
a 4-part series launched this week. And may I say, I had a look at the ratings. Most of Australia tuned in.
Right.
So it was the highest rating show after the Channel 7 and Channel 9 news. So it's obviously a subject that's very interesting for a lot of people.
It is. I got a lot of phone calls during the show. Are you watching? What do you make of it? Obviously, you and I have watched it and we're pretty active in this space. What was your general take on it?
It reminded me a little bit of like The Biggest Loser in the longevity space. So let me say firstly, I thought it was a good thing that they've done it.
Me too.
It sheds a light on living better, living well, all the things that we talk about. I understand that it's a television show. I understand that you can't take the contestants, introduce them to the audience and then come back a year later.
Yeah.
Because it's not going to work on television. I get that. So it's a 4-part series each week, and it's a 12-week journey with these people that they take you on, and they start with a baseline. They do things like a DEXA test. They do flexibility, memory, max VO2, amongst a whole bunch of things. So they test the hell out of the contestants, and then they give them a biological age, right? And then they improve that over the 12 weeks.
It's not surprising that it was so popular. From the dawn of time, we've been looking for that elixir of life. How do we live longer? So I'm sure everyone, whether they are like us that are hell-bent on understanding this, or whether it's the average Joe who wants to know how they can live longer, tuned in. Now, I know in the past you've had some experience with this yourself. I think you're on a network, ran a pilot that looked at lifespan some years ago. I was involved with the Sydney Morning Herald. An experiment there was literally a 5 days of life swap in 2008, where someone took my life and I took theirs. And even some of the challenges that these contestants, or I probably should call them contestants, are going to find, it's going to be significant. I had to change my lifestyle for 5 days with a guy who drank 5 beers a day. He didn't exercise at all. He had to take my life, and neither of us actually coped in that process.
That would have done your head in.
Yeah, entirely.
Yeah.
And some of the things in the show I found quite interesting. The stand on one leg. They open standing on one leg as a predictor to your lifespan. Just on that.
Yeah. So I cringed when I saw that.
Yeah.
I think the doctor who was on there would have cringed as well when they told him that's they were going to do that. Look, I know for you that you've been tested and your health age is 37.
Yeah.
And you are a lot older than that. But you've got vertigo. So how the hell does Karl, the professor, stand on one leg with his arms crossed, with his eyes shut, with vertigo, and they've claimed on the show that this is a predictor of how long you're going to live. So you're dead tomorrow based on the fact that you've got vertigo.
And
you can't do that.
No,
you can't do that.
No, it's true. That's true. It is difficult. I think they had to try and create some theatre. It's television. You know that better than I would, that you need to do something that's engaging, where it's a little bit of a gimmick. I think some of the other tests, like the DEXA scan's pretty good. Visceral fat tests, fatty liver, cholesterol. Some of the findings were pretty interesting. Duncan Armstrong, household name, Olympian, gold medalist. Not a great looking outcome for him.
No. And so I did like the fact that they went and tested genetically, where you could be based on your genes. I like the fact they brought his son into it. I know Duncan. Duncan's a good guy, and 3 years ago, for those that didn't see the show this week, he had a heart incident, and it was related back to his family history. Had to have open heart surgery. long recovery from that. He's a healthy guy.
But is he? I mean, this is the thing. They talked about his diet. And so he's a keto man. And the doctor made it very clear. There's actually, in the rat tests at least, they die earlier. So this whole thing about let's just eat animal protein. And if you looked at the sample of food that he ate, there wasn't a lot of variety. There weren't a lot of dark leafy greens in there. No. It was literally just a meat fest.
Yeah. Like one of the things that I like is to eat a lot of different colours and to eat a lot of different types of food that are healthy and try to mix it up a little bit, because you do get caught into that pattern of eating the same thing every day. And I try to change that. And in Duncan's case, there wasn't a lot of variety. There wasn't enough healthy foods in there to sort of balance it out. And then his son as well, a lot of shitty carbs.
Yeah,
were in his diet. So no, you're right. So from that point of view, and look, they were clever in that they did sort of target the 4 pillars of what you need to look at for health and longevity, being exercise, sleep and recovery, nutrition, and that stress levels and mental health.
That's great.
Part of it. So that was really good.
Yeah, yeah.
The issue is this: what can you find out in 12 weeks?
Look, you can probably find out something, I imagine. Like if you think about our training blocks or your training blocks in the past, you'd make a substantial dent into your performance in 12 weeks, whether it's sustainable, whether it changes your actual longevity. It's a long game here. Longevity means long game. So, you're going to change maybe the way you feel for the next quarter or 6 months if you do 12 weeks and then fall back into your patterns. But I think it's about shifting that. You look at James Clear's work in Atomic Habits. It's about how do we start looking at these patterns that we fall into and then reprogram them.
And that's the thing, right? So when the television camera's on you and they say you're a 50-year-old that's got the health age of a 62-year-old, you're 12 years closer to death, as they put it, which was, that sensationalism on television, and the contestant freaks. They're like, oh, my God, cameras are on them. They're like, I love my family. I don't want to be doing this. But you smoke 30 cigarettes a day, you drink 2 slabs of beer a week. When the cameras are off and we're 6 months down the track, are they going to still have that same sort of attitude and that habit changing to go and really change their life around?
Leechy, what I've enjoyed, known you for 20 years now, okay, so I've watched you have, and I can see you waiting for me to have a gag here, but there isn't one.
No gag?
No gag this time.
What
there might be.
Let's
just see. It could come. But I've watched the way that you work with the people you've trained and coached, and the programs that you've put together have always been about mindset first. It's about get your head right, the physical stuff will come. And it's always about that longevity in the long game. So, you've probably got 30 or 50 people that have been training with you for 20 years and hundreds of others that have benefited and learned from you over that process. I know that's about you're very considerate of the human condition, the way that we think, the things that interfere with our patterns and our habits. And you address those first. And even from the way that you trained as a kid, jumping in that pool, you told that story last time about being 12 and having a logbook and a program, being very sort of disciplined. It doesn't have to be like that necessarily to that level, but it is a mindset shift to keep that consistency.
You do need part of that. I mean, obviously, I would call myself one of those people that's a bit of a unicorn in that, like I lay it all out. And in Ironman, there were 17 sessions a week, and you executed those sessions as best you could every day for the week, and you logged them down and wrote them down. And in a lot of ways, that process and that platform that I did in sport, I do in longevity now. I exercise every day. I make sure that I have 200 grams of protein a day. So it becomes this gamification in longevity of what I do. And talking about that, there has to be some sort of goal setting and process put in place to actually change habits and get a healthier outcome. And so the issue is with the contestants, will they build those processes in place over 12 weeks that when the TV cameras aren't there anymore, they'll continue to go on that route and actually improve. Now, I think that Duncan Armstrong will, and probably his son as well, because Duncan comes from that background. But the guy that smokes 30 cigarettes a day and breakfast is a coffee and a cigarette, and that's the start of a bad day on, day out. Will he? I don't know. I hope he does, because it'll change 20 years. It'll add 20 years to his life based on him doing everything wrong. and he wants to be around for his kids. So that is the question. And look, in saying that, one of the things that we're doing here at the Longevity Lounge is right at this very moment, we're building a program for the general public. And the program is online based. It's there for everyone. It's a program that changes habits. It teaches you about what's important and what's not in this longevity area and what you need to focus in on and how to change your mindset to be able to get a change in results. And the program will be out this year. It's not expensive, but what we're trying to do is we're trying to give people the tools to turn their life around.
This program is proudly brought to you by Ascend Performance Collagen Protein. Ascend Performance Collagen Protein uses the highest quality ingredients, is dairy-free and tastes great. Each serve contains 25 grams of protein and includes Tenderfort for joint and ligament support, as well as Gut Matrix to help support a healthy and diverse gut microbiome using a unique combination of pre, pro, and postbiotic ingredients. To find out more or purchase, go to ascendperformance.com.au.
An athlete doesn't win and become the best in the world if they just go and sort of just try to do something without actually having it like laid out black and white, like the yellow brick road, And it's the same in this area too. You've got to focus in on it. You've got to actually write it down and mark it off and know what you're doing. But the thing is, you got to know what's right and not what's wrong, because the problem is in this age with the internet and social media, what do you know what's right and what's not? The rabbit holes you can go down are extreme, and you've got to have a source that is reputable and knowledgeable. And you sort of you spoke about a team. Well, we've got the best team in the country.
We do.
Yeah, and they know what they know based on a lifetime of learnings, and we've tapped into that. You and I don't know everything, although we tell each other we do. But these people are experts, and we brought them all together to build something that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that knowledge is really important. The misinformation around, to your point, is rife. So the fact that we've gone to proven, qualified academics, that have the background in science to provide this information is really important. Just a quick question. I don't know whether you ever did a race called Molokai, which is the World Surf Ski Championships in Hawaii.
I've heard you've done it.
I have done it 7 times. So did you?
I only did it the once and won. Yeah, but thanks for asking.
So I make this point because I went into that race thinking that I was going to go really well. 2005, I started paddling 2 years earlier after sort of a triathlon background. 2 years earlier, I won the Men's Health Short Course Series in Australia and thought, I'm a massive chance here. I'm a huge chance to win the Hawaiian Molokai Challenge. Yeah. I was coming about 7th, I think, after 10K, and it's a 52K race, and I was coming 207th after 11K.
with 208 in the field.
Yeah, and I floated in a broken man. Yeah. And that literally was all about knowledge. It was I'd overestimated my ability, which may or may not be something that I do quite a lot of, and you too, possibly.
Well, you talk it up. You don't really, but you talk it up.
No,
it's good for the cameras.
But I hadn't done the work in learning. I hadn't done the work in actually, and look, our attention span now has gone as a society from 12 seconds to 8 seconds because of social media and emerging technology. So we've got to deliver things, and which is why we've designed the program as we have, to be snackable, bite-sized information that people can pick up very quickly. They don't need to do a long course. They don't need to do a PhD on exercise physiology, but what's going to change your life? What can you listen to on the bus on the way to work that's going to help make a difference that day?
Yeah, and the thing with all of this is, and what I took out of the show was that it's not rocket science what we're talking about, but you need to focus on it, and you need to go and have a good look at your life and what you do, and be honest, be really honest, and be at that stage of your life where you're ready to make a change and do something about it. And I think that's where the show, as you said, has been good. But the program is being built based on the fact that you don't have to go into a classroom, you don't have to go and sweat for 2 hours a day. It's this learning, this education that's going to set you free. I mean, I look at the one thing I found really interesting with the show this week was Nick Bell. Nick Bell is like the Aussie version of Brian Johnson, the guy over in the States that tapped out of a tech business, made hundreds of millions of dollars, and then is on this quest to live forever.
Yep.
Nick Bell's I wouldn't say is exactly the Brian Johnson in Australia, but he's a guy that tapped out. He's still doing business, but he's worth a lot of money, 300 million, they say, 43 years of age. He's fit. If you saw the show, he's quite likable. He's got a good sense of humour.
Absolutely.
And he's right into living as long as he can, as well as he can, which is what we're about.
Yep.
But in saying that, he's a little bit like a test lab rat in that if you saw the show, like he's gone and flown over to Mexico to go and get injected 150 times across his whole body to change his genetics, to boost his genetics with a process that's only been tested on mice. But he seemed really, really intelligent.
Oh, yeah.
But to do that, I'm like, dude, that doesn't seem like it's the right thing to do.
I suppose he considers the medical model to be too conservative, and in his time frame, he only has a certain amount of time to be able to get on top of this. But the stage 1, 2, 3, 4 trials before we get PBS listing and can go into a pharmaceutical production, it's a long time. You've got to have a lot of different protocols in place and testing that's been proven to be effective and safe. We don't have that for genetic modification. So he had to, in his mind, hack that and shortcut that a little bit.
He spent $700,000 on 150 injections to hopefully change his genetic disposition to give him an advantage of what he's currently got.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
It's amazing, isn't it?
It's amazing.
Well, it's also great. It's been, look, I hope he goes well. I wish him the best.
Yeah. If you're listening,
Yeah.
Nick, mate, thumbs up to you, brother.
Terrific. You came off.
Mate, big, mate, well done.
Really good. But I think for us, it's going to be interesting to watch his journey as well.
Yeah.
I mean, look, I hope we got nothing.
I want to reach
say
out to him, so I'm keen next week when the second part of the show comes on. They're filming him going through that process.
Yeah.
And obviously the 12 weeks is not going to tell us, or he's not going to be able to tell us what the advantages are. It's going to take time. But we certainly need to go and connect with him and get him on the lounge.
Well,
and
you want to speak at his funeral as well.
Just joking, Nick.
So that was the first episode, I suppose, of the show. I can't wait for the next episode to come around.
Looking forward to it. I particularly want to see the outcomes with Duncan Armstrong. They raised a red flag with him with some of the testing they found out. So I'm interested in seeing how Duncan goes. And, the Nick Bell journey for me is super interesting. 95% of what he does is what I do.
Yes.
But he's literally built this wonderland at home of all these longevity biohacks that, some of the stuff only money can buy, and he's got plenty of it. So I'm really keen to see how he goes as well.
Absolutely.
See you next week.
See you later.